So guys, welcome back to Film Learning in Corona Times. We are doing this very interesting series called Behind the Screen Magicians, where I'm trying to throw some light into the aspect of filmmaking that you don't get to see on screen, but I as a director know is invaluable in making a film. So with me is my good friend and the first AD of film Chhichhore, Jay Shah. And I must say that he was my second AD on Shubh Mangal Savdan, and he's very integral part of my close extended family and core team. So Jay.
Hello, how are you?
I'm going to make you watch this quick video so that you can explain what is happening there for all the people watching. Yeah.
Very much. If you imagine that the director is a painter and he's got all these colors, which is a crew, what you've got to do is mix all those things on the palette so he doesn't end up with brown.
Yeah, so two more behind, and I should have, yeah, that's it.
So what's happened is you've been captured. When we get to a certain point, Chris, should we get these guys to sit down as well, do you think?
They're going to sit down. These guys come in and get sat down here. They're already sat down, right? Ben will tell you when to get up. But when you all stood up, okay, everybody stood up and then march off, okay?
All right, shooting. Here we go.
All right, here we go then, please. Turn over, please.
Ready? And action!
Action! Action!
It's the art of the minimum necessary effort. And that's what I try and get everything down to, is the minimum effort required rather than the maximum effort. Because if you put maximum effort into everything, you'll do 3 shots a day. And since we'll have done something like 3,000 shots, you do them as well as you can within the time frame you can allow, and then you stop and move on.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, cut!
So see, this is a typical scenario that I would say, that we as first ADs would come across on a shoot day. And that the director needs to essentially focus on his creatives, his interaction with the actors. So the other part of running the show on the shoot day, which is getting people together, logistics together, requirements together, that is something which I think, is the essential job of a first AD, where the director doesn't have to stress about all those things, he can just focus on the creative aspect of filmmaking. And it's very important, that there is a very straight and a very clear chain of communication between the first AD and his different ADs, So in the Indian scenario, ideally, this guy would be the third AD who is mostly assigned to handle the background action. So essentially on any given shoot day, when you have maybe a college scenario or a cafeteria or a canteen, or a reception kind of a setup, wherein you have a lot of crowd, then the third AD, like the guy in the video, would design basis the kind of frame that we've set up, the background action where people will come in, where people will go, then he runs it by the first AD. The first AD, coordinates with the director and the cinematographer or the DP, and they set it up. They rehearse the background action before we call the main actors on set, so that we are not wasting time with the main talent, being around. They need to be called in only when, we've properly designed and, set up the background action.
There must be a lot of pre-production that you guys do. So what do you do to get to this point? And maybe if you could share some of the tools that you use, that to organize all this.
That before moving on the set where the clock is ticking, the producer's money is at stake, you can't afford to waste any time. It's great to be prepped completely to the minutest of the detail, so that on the day of the shoot, you are just executing, what you've planned and what you've prepped. So that's where I come from. Like my schooling as a first AD, my schooling, as an AD is that, that do not leave anything to chance on the day of the shoot. Prep everything. And now, the documents that I will be sharing with all of you would be, from the film Chhichhore, which you already mentioned, is my last released film.
I must interrupt here to thank Nitesh Sir a lot for giving you permission to share these things. They're very sweet of, very sweet of you.
We had a good 3.5 to 4 months, of the prep time. Yeah, so see, this is basically the software, that we normally use to break down a script, which is called MMS, or the Movie Magic Scheduling. The idea is basically, that once you do this exercise, you've basically taken out all the information that you need in terms of the requirement for each scene, put it. And the software is really a great tool, that once you've put in and feeded all the information, at the click of a button later on, we distribute to all the HODs, all the requirements, and then we move on from there. Because the most important aspect that first ADs are required to do is the shooting schedule. This is the basic information, how a schedule essentially looks like. This is a typical day, how it looks like, this is scene numbers, and this is the set where the scene is taking place. These are the cast IDs of the actors, and this is essentially the location where we are actually shooting. This is how a typical call sheet looks like. You have a shift time, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You have the relevant information, about the crew. This is the address where the shooting takes place. And then, of course, this is the description of the scenes, that you're pulling off on that particular day. Call sheet is essentially, that you give out a day before to the whole of the crew so that there is no confusion, what we are doing on the next day. This is called a prep calendar, which I was talking about, which is the blueprint, for the whole of 3 to 4 months, while you are prepping. So this is something, which is very important to follow, that every day has been scaled out, has been charted out, whom directors is meeting, who is coming for which meeting, so that we have all figured out, basically, for all of 3 months of the prep time. For super directors, that I have been fortunate to work with. So I'll start with Ashwini ma'am, in the order that I'd worked with them. With Ashwini ma'am, I think I was really raw. She was my first director. I had just stepped in the world of films, with starry eyes and everything. One thing which I really appreciated about her and really learned was, her handling, of the cast, the crew. Like that was my eye opener, that how well she could actually bring everyone on the same page, utilizing their individual talents, to bring the film together. Then, of course, moving on to you. With you, for the first time, I felt, that I was not working on a film, or I was not working on a professional assignment. For me, it was more like, coming to shoot, coming to meet my friends, and owning up the film. That's the first time I realized, that if you have a captain, who really puts his faith in you, who really trusts you, with his heart, you go all out, to just give it all. Working with you, I really understood one thing, which I'm really implementing hard in my life is, how to treat your people, how to be a good, really good leader, and, take the work out of them, without actually making them work in a way. Moving on to Dabakar, I think he's an MBA in the garb of a filmmaker, great organizational skills, I would say. I have picked up a lot from him, and an amazing craftsman, when it comes to the technical aspect of filmmaking, also the lensing, the framing, storyboarding, sketching, shot divisions. These are all the things, which I really picked up, from him. Great guy to work with. This is that. And coming to Nitesh, I would say that one thing that I picked up is, humanity from him, which is such a rare thing, in these days. As a director, you have so much power. But out here, we saw a human being, who was so humble, in spite of Dangal, in spite of everything that he has achieved, before that. Not only just in filming, but in advertising also. But out was a human being, who treated everyone with so much dignity, with so much respect and love, that you just felt every day of your working life, that you want to do something extraordinary for this human being.
So how do you handle stress? You were telling me about your wonderful experience at a certain place. So just a quick, narration of how you handle stress as a first year.
Of course, I've been practicing Vipassana for quite a long time now, having gone to the retreats, in Igatpuri. The biggest learning that I've got from Vipassana is, especially the stressful scenarios, that we normally find ourselves in, that what brings you the misery, or what brings you the stress, or what brings you the sorrow is essentially your reaction, to everything. And in Vipassana, that's exactly, what you learn is, that when you become sorrow, the reason for your sorrowness is never an outside stimulus or not an outside person. It's essentially your reaction to that stimulus, which has brought you sorrow. So all you need to do is, how not to react to that stimulus. So there could be stress around, there could be negativity around, but so long as, you are very clear in your head and you don't react, to the negative stimulus, and you just keep your calm mind, that you just be calm, let there be storm around you, but so long as, you can keep your calm, the storm can't really affect you. it's more like, taking everything in your stride and then just moving on.
Yeah, it's attached detachment. So,
Yes.
and
Yes.
sometimes it's very sad that we kind of push these things into the realm of esoteric spirituality, when actually these are very important practical tools, especially for high stress jobs like filmmaking, where things completely go out of control. There's only probably 10% of the things that we can control. 90% of it you don't know. There can be a rain, there can be corona which takes away your film schedule for a toss, there can be an earthquake, your lead actor can quit one day before shoot. I mean, things will go wrong. So I think Vipassana or any other tool of that makes you calmer, that makes you get a grip on the vagaries of business, will make you a better professional. So I think it's actually very, very practical and very useful. So thanks, Jay, for sharing that also. So good, man. This has been great fun. I think this has given a very good insight into what a first AD does, and hope to see you soon on the other side of Corona, and hope we work together again very soon.
Fingers crossed. Hope to see you soon.
Yes. Take care, buddy.
Thank you so much.